can!
It's over!
He's done it again! Unbelievable!
Oh, straight into the roof of the net.
Nice one.
Straight down the middle. So a good performance from both teams here today.
Hi, you're watching Firstpost. I'm Rupha Ramani. Let's get started. On the show today, England commentator Nasser Hussain has critiqued the ongoing tussle between Pakistan and the ICC, the International Cricket Council, saying all countries should be treated fairly and that he backs this boycott stand taken by Pakistan, while also calling for politics to stop and the sport to move on. Is he entirely right, or is there a key loophole he is missing? Captain Smriti Mandhana led the Bengaluru Royal Challengers to their second title at the Women's Premier League, beating her best friend Jemimah Rodrigues' Delhi Capitals. A gritty comeback win this, but there was so much more to this WPL final from last night. And Winter Games now has a huge, strange challenge on its hands. How can they prevent or detect ski jumpers from doping? This is not just any doping. This involves intentionally enlarging male genitalia to perform better. Sounds bizarre. Wait to know more. But first, the headlines on Sports 360. Starting with cricket, Australia has been hit with yet another massive blow ahead of the World Cup. Days after Pat Cummins was ruled out, their star pacer Josh Hazlewood would also miss the tournament because of a hamstring injury. The Aussies have not named any replacement just yet. They begin their campaign on the 11th of February against Ireland in Colombo. India too has suffered an injury blow ahead of the T20 World Cup. Pacer Harshit Rana has been ruled out of the tournament. He suffered an injury during India's warm-up match against South Africa. Mohammad Siraj is likely to be named as replacement. At the Under-19 World Cup final, India's Vaibhav Suryavanshi scripted history against England. The opening batter scored the quickest 100 by an Indian in youth one-day internationals. The 14-year-old reached the landmark in 55 deliveries, breaking the previous record held by Raj Angad Bawa, who did it in 69 balls. His 175-run knock helped India surpass the 400-run mark. Moving to football, Saudi Arabia has given football legend Cristiano Ronaldo a massive warning. The league said no players can influence management decisions. It comes after Ronaldo refused to take the field in Al Nassr's clash against Al Riyadh. Ronaldo's participation for the clash against Al Ittihad later today remains uncertain as well. On to tennis, Luca Nardi upset fellow countryman Flavio Cobolli at ATP Montpellier. The world number 106 beat the second seed in straight sets. Nardi blasted 17 winners to enter the quarterfinals. And we'll sum it up with the NBA. LA Lakers had a mixed outing against Philadelphia 76ers. Austin Reeves came from the bench to score 35 and guided his side to a 119 to 115 point win. But their star forward Luka Doncic was forced to leave the game due to an injury. The India-Pakistan standoff has generated a lot of chatter in the cricketing world. Needless to say, everyone invested in this ICC tournament is worried, as they rightfully should be, because there is a lot of uncertainty now that only keeps intensifying with each passing day. One of the voices who's come out to express his concern over this matter that could have severe ramifications for future tournaments and the sport itself is former England captain and commentator Nasser Hussain. He backs the fact that Pakistan and Bangladesh stood their ground, and he wants sport to get a move on and politics to take the back seat here. Is he right? Now, Nasser Hussain is one of those cricketing voices you simply cannot ignore. He may not have been the greatest to captain his country, nor the greatest batter of his times, but a commentator of the game, solid 10 on 10. I've worked with him, and the level of professionalism that he brings is spotless. He's the sort of cricketer who doesn't mince his words either. He doesn't hold back any criticism and will be first in line to question his own country's captains and players, like he did recently when Bazball exploded against Australia. And there have been many more instances too, but we won't get in there. He recently, in a podcast, weighed in on this ongoing tussle between Pakistan and the ICC.
At some stage, someone's got to say enough with this politics. Can we just get back to playing cricket? I quite like Bangladesh sticking to their guns, and I quite like Pakistan.
Now, I'm all for backing conviction. It's an admirable trait to have, and yes, it's a quality that should be advocated. Nasser says, enough with the politics, let's just go back to playing cricket. But is it that easy? Is it that simple in the times we live in? Let me give you an example here. Just some months back, Mohun Bagan requested the AFC, Asian Football Confederation, to move their match out of Iran. They said they couldn't possibly travel there due to security concerns. This was, of course, during the Israel-Iran conflict. It was at its peak. Also, many of Mohun Bagan players are of foreign nationalities. Spain, Australia, Brazil, and their countries had issued a directive for their citizens not to travel to Iran. What did AFC do? They said, tough luck, you have to travel and play. Mohun Bagan couldn't. The result? Suspension. What happened when Al Nassr and Cristiano Ronaldo made a similar request of not wanting to travel to Iran just a month later? AFC scurried and moved their match against Istiklal from Tehran to Dubai. Look, I'm not saying this is right. All I'm saying is that's the kind of world we live in today. It's polarized, it's highly volatile, sensitive, and highly influenced and impacted by geopolitical developments. That's the environment today. So calling politics to rest and the sport to simply carry on, while is very easy to say, is not remotely easy to execute. Why did Aryna Sabalenka and Elina Svitolina did not shake hands in a Grand Slam semi-final in front of a packed centre court? Why do athletes forfeit matches and refuse to play certain opponents? Why have governing bodies not been able to set all of this right? Because most times, adjusting and giving in to rising public sentiment to the overarching emotion becomes a little more imperative to do than doing what is right. Is that ideal? No. Even so, coming back to the T20 Cricket World Cup, the ICC has still managed to circumvent these political tensions and try to execute a tournament that can run as smoothly as possible. Pakistan wanted neutral venues. Fair ask, they got it. Nasser Hussain does not stop here. He goes on to say this.
I guess the real comparison would be, if it had been India, would the ICC have been so firm and say, you know the rules, bad luck, we're knocking you out?
But where's the larger truth here? That no team that threatens to disrupt a tournament days prior to it should be entertained at all. India never has. And while a show of strength and defiance is being appreciated here, who's bearing the cost of this stand? Not the Pakistan government for sure, it's the players. Because PCB takes a hit with this act, which affects the players. Those cricketers who want to play the sport and earn their livelihood. Pakistan PM Shahbaz Sharif may have stood there and announced his bold, aggressive stand for the world to hear, but cricket captain Salman Ali Agha is paying the price for it. So how is that fair, just, or right? So to say that sports should be completely bereft of politics while is ideal is naive and impossible to achieve, and the person to know it most should be Nasser Hussain. Rewind to 2009, the Cricket T20 World Cup, Zimbabwe was forced to withdraw because UK did not give the players and the support staff the visas. Why? Because UK had cut off sporting ties with Zimbabwe. That's sports mixing with politics for you. Bengaluru franchise are Women's Premier League champions again. A record run chase, a packed final, and at the heart of it all, Captain Smriti Mandhana. But this isn't just a story about a trophy or even about a brilliant knock in a final. This is about a story of resilience, about friendships that go beyond scorecards, and about an Indian women's cricket setup that is rising together, stronger than ever before, redefining the Indian cricketing landscape altogether. Because in that final, from the emotions in the dugout to the gestures between rivals to the refusal of players to bow down to pressure or personal struggles, Indian women's cricket showed exactly why its rise is unstoppable. Women's cricket in India has travelled a long, hard road, from fighting for contracts to fighting for recognition, to finally becoming prime-time superstars. And that journey reached a historic high last year, when India lifted their first global women's title. But just as the celebrations ended, a storm hit one of the team's biggest faces, Smriti Mandhana. The same fans who once adored her turned into critics, gossip mongers, even trolls. Personal attacks followed, boundaries were crossed, and the troll army came out in full force. For many players, that kind of pressure is enough to crack you. But Smriti Mandhana, as we've been seeing now, isn't built that way. Because she had already put one thing above all.
I don't think I love anything in life more than cricket. So when you go out to bat or when you go out to represent your country, I don't think any other thoughts are there in the mind. When you put on the Indian jersey, the only thing you want to do is represent India and win the match for the country. Once you put on the jersey, you just keep all your problems aside and just be on the field. The thought of that is enough for you to have that razor sharp focus and do what you want to do.
And she proved those words in the biggest game of the season. Before the final, Mandhana was battling high fever. She was unwell, but when the final arrived, she walked out like a leader and delivered a masterclass. A knock that powered Bengaluru to the highest successful run chase in a T20 final across men's or women's cricket.
She was seriously unwell with a high fever, but to turn up, not even show it, nobody in the team knew. That's the person Smriti is.
That performance didn't just win a title, it won respect, and it also proved something else. Smriti Mandhana wasn't alone in this battle. She had her team behind her, a dressing room that desperately wanted her to win.
Smriti has been through a lot in the last 1.5 months, so this win is very special. I would love to dedicate this win to her.
That's not just a teammate talking, that's a family that's backed her. Because in that final, support didn't just come from inside the Bengaluru dugout. Her parents were in the stands too. Her teammates were cheering every run she made. And then, of course, came the moment that defined the spirit of the game. If you witnessed those visuals last night, you know that hug lasted more than some minutes. Delhi captain Jemimah Rodrigues on the losing side, heartbroken after another loss in a final, and yet she stood there with a smile, joy for her opposite captain. Where else do you see that? A losing captain celebrating the opposition's victory, and in a manner that transcends sporting dimensions. Now make no mistake, Jemimah had given everything to this game. A quick-fire 57 with the bat, energy in the field, passion, leadership, intent. She even celebrated wildly when Mandhana was dismissed. She wanted to win this and win this bad. Because in that final, during that match, she was Smriti and RCB's biggest competitor. But once it ended, she was that best friend again. These two didn't just share a dressing room, they shared India's first World Cup triumph together. Jemimah even skipped an overseas league to stay back for Smriti to help her tide over an emotional storm. And Smriti has always done the same, on and off the field, even when Jemimah and her own battle to fight. So this story isn't just about two cricketers trying to wage solo battles. They're doing all they can to prop and back each other up, make each other better, and with it, make the sport stronger. That's what is the true reflection of the culture this entire Indian women's setup has really built.
हम लोग काफ़ी टाइम से एक साथ खेल रहे हैं, बट सिर्फ अगर ये पर्टिकुलरली वर्ल्ड कप कैंपेन की बात करूँ तो हम पिछले 2 महीने से एक साथ हैं और सब कुछ कर रहे हैं, तो बॉन्ड इतने स्पेशल बन गए हैं. जैसे जेमिमा, अरू, राधा, माई सेल्फ, रिचा एंड शेफाली, मतलब बहुत स्पेशल है. सबको पता है कि सबके लिए क्या इम्पोर्टेंट है, किस टाइम पे किसको क्या ज़रूरत है, तो हर कोई हर किसी के लिए अवेलेबल रहता था उस मोमेंट के लिए.
That is the real rise of women's cricket, a unit that grows together, a team that celebrates individual success and players who keep breaking stereotypes. They aren't just cricketers anymore, they're icons, role models and leaders of a sporting revolution. On paper, history will say Bengaluru lifted their second WPL title, the biggest run chase across IPL and WPL competitions, another trophy in the cabinet, another milestone for the franchise who now hold WPL and IPL titles in the same calendar year. But the real memory of that final in Vadodara won't just be the records. It will be Smriti Mandhana's resilience, Jemimah's sportsmanship, and a team that stood together through it all. Because last night, it wasn't just Bengaluru that won, women's cricket triumphed. The Winter Olympics are underway in Italy, and when you think of the Olympics, you expect conversations around medals, records, rivalries, and national pride. But this time, The International Olympic Committee is dealing with a different kind of controversy. First, it was the issue of immigration enforcement agents, USA's ICE, near the venues. And now it's something stranger, a controversy involving the enlargement of male genitalia. Yes, you heard that right. And as bizarre as it sounds, this isn't a joke, and it isn't just gossip from the locker rooms, because this phenomenon could actually give athletes a competitive advantage, which means the IOC and anti-doping agencies are now facing one of the weirdest integrity battles in Olympic history. Here's the full story.
Whenever the Olympics begin, the World Anti-Doping Agency, better known as WADA, goes into overdrive. And for good reason too. Because the Olympic Games are the ultimate stage, the biggest prize in sport, and sometimes the biggest temptation. Athletes train for years, sacrifice everything, and in some cases, they cross the line, using illegal methods just to gain a few extra seconds or a few extra meters. The 2026 Winter Games in Italy is no different. WADA is on high alert, testing is constant, surveillance is tighter than ever. But as every Olympics proves, this edition too has brought its own unique controversy. In Paris, the big talking point was sustainability. But in Italy, the conversation has taken a rather unique turn. A scandal now being casually referred to as Penisgate. And as ridiculous as that name sounds, the issue is very real. WADA is reportedly monitoring ski jumpers who may be injecting their penises with hyaluronic acid. And the reason is surprisingly simple. In ski jumping, body shape and aerodynamics are everything. Even the slightest alteration can affect airflow, balance, and distance.
Ski jumping is very popular in Poland, so I promise you I'm going to look at it.
There is actual science behind this concern. Research shows that even a tiny change in the suit's dimensions, as little as 2 centimeters, can increase jump distance by nearly 6 meters. 6 meters in a sport where medals are often decided by fractions. And this isn't just theory. The sport has already faced controversy over suit manipulation. At the 2025 World Ski Championships, Norwegian ski jumpers Marius Lindvik and Johan Andre Forfang were found guilty of tampering with their suits around the crotch area. When officials caught them, they were handed 3-month suspensions. That loophole is now under heavy scrutiny, and because suit manipulation is easier to detect, there are fears that some athletes may be turning to something more discreet, something far harder to monitor.
It is possible to achieve a temporary visual thickening of the penis by injecting paraffin or hyaluronic acid. Such an injection is not medically indicated and is associated with risks.
But when Olympic gold is on the line, history tells us that some athletes are willing to take extreme risks. From blood doping to steroid scandals to high-tech suit controversies, sport has seen it all. And now, ski jumping may be facing one of its most bizarre challenges yet.
Time for last serve. The Winter Olympics seems to be dealing with one concern after another. As the event began in Italy, pro-Palestinians staged a protest demanding the removal of Israel from the Games. That wraps it up here on First Sports. Enjoy your weekend. I'll see you on the other side. Bye-bye.
Power doesn't end quietly. Some deaths are not accidents. They are messages. A gunshot. A crowd. A country frozen. The killer disappears. The questions don't. This is not just about who died. It's about what followed. Governments fell. Armies moved. History rewrote itself. 5 leaders. 5 moments. One pattern. The assassination.